Welcome to all of you to this important ceremony, the dedication of the Capitan Garden. Okay, let me say it again. Welcome. Faculty, students, retirees, staff, donors to this project, and other guests. Again, we're very glad that you're here. Today is special. We have a lot of special people who are here. I would like to recognize, though, a few extra special guests. First of all, welcome to our representative to the General Assembly, Mr. Mike Chokas, back in the back there. I might add that former state senator, and now Regent George Hooks has asked me to let you know that he would be here, but that in his capacity as a regent, he is meeting with the Board of Regents in their October meeting, which is being held today in Milledgeville. Also, a special welcome to our mayor, Mr. Barry Blunt. Also, welcome to Mr. Jimmy Skipper, the chair of our foundation, and the other members of our foundation board that are here with us today. And finally, it's my privilege to recognize the Capitan children, Ms. Rita Spalding, and to her right, son, Mr. Ned Capitan. Thank you very much for being here. We are here today to officially dedicate the Capitan Garden, a special tribute to Dr. William Capitan and his wife Dolores. The measure of a university president's success is not only what he accomplished during his presidency, but also what he did to ensure the future success of the university. Certainly, President Capitan's legacy is evident across the campus in policy, curriculum, personnel, facilities, and special programs. For example, the Dolores Capitan Writing Award. He and his wife served the university well. At the same time, Dr. Capitan laid the foundation for advances that were to be made long after he had stepped down. For example, this Health and Human Sciences complex was something he envisioned years ago. It was he who started the discussion that ultimately led to its construction here within the last couple of years. For this, I'm extremely grateful. This is why it is so fitting that the Capitan Garden be located here between Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the complex. At the same time, I am grateful to those who proposed this tribute and to all of those who helped raise money necessary to its creation. And by the way, the list of donors is on the inside of the front page of the program. I also appreciate the work of Mr. Arthur Clark and his colleagues in the physical plant who designed and landscaped this garden. Now, as you can tell from your program, we've asked several people to speak today. I will not introduce them individually, but suffice it to say the first two speakers were key players in the design and funding of the project. The third was a close colleague of Dr. Capitan. And the fourth was a student during the Capitan era. And that one should be interesting. Following these speakers, Dr. Capitan will respond. So with that, I turn the program over to Dr. Dudley.
Dr. Capitan and family, Dr. Blanchard, ladies and gentlemen, we're here today on this surprisingly chilly October morning to honor the 8th president of Georgia Southwestern. During his 16-year tenure, Dr. Capitan provided great intellect and vision as the leader of our university. He introduced many policies and ideas, including, but not limited to, the reorganization of the faculty, enhanced student recruitment, the addition of a number of new undergraduate and graduate degree programs, the Asian Studies program, the Third World Studies program, the ROTC program, and an increased interest in athletics. This morning, in the interest of time, I would like to focus my comments on what I consider his two most enduring and visionary decisions. The first was the establishment of the Georgia Southwestern Foundation. Although the idea of a foundation had been discussed previously, it was Dr. Capitan who quickly made it a reality. Established in 1979, the total assets in 1981 was approximately $33,000. Now fast forward to today. The total value of the foundation is $28,197,000. Over the period that the foundation has been in existence, more than $10 million has been granted in scholarships to our students. Total land acquisition to include the Boeing gift, the Chapman's soccer fields, and the Griffin Bell Golf Course has more than doubled the potential size of the campus and provides unlimited opportunity for growth in the future. You look around your new buildings and facilities, which involve the foundation with the Daraso Pool, the Westbrook Tower, the Newman Alumni House, Roy Lee and Susan Smith Baseball and Tennis Complex. And recently, the formation of a limited liability company was responsible for the 3 new residence halls. Also of interest, there are 3 endowed professorships, the Distinguished Chair of Biology, and eminent scholars in nursing and RCI. The other important policy was the establishment of the Rosalind Carter Institute in 1987, formed in honor of former First Lady Rosalind Carter, an alumnus of Georgia Southwestern, to enhance her longstanding commitment to human development and mental health. In my opinion, as a physician, the mission of the Institute to address caregiving in all its aspects is one of the most important and underserved issues facing society today. RCI has quickly become a national leader in this field and has brought and will continue to bring great credit to Georgia Southwestern. The total endowment of RCI at this time is about $7.5 million, which includes a substantial gift from the Carters, representing a portion of Jimmy Carter's Nobel Prize Award. In conclusion, today we find ourselves in this lovely plaza and garden which connects Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the Rosalind Carter Caregiving Complex. I cannot think of a more appropriate way or site to honor Dr. Capitan. Hopefully, in the fullness of time, this area will serve as a place for rest, reflection, and exchange of ideas between our students and faculty who are dedicated to a lifetime of caregiving.
Dr. Blanchard, my friend Bill Capitan and Rita and Ned, Connie, Gatewood, all of you out there. It's so good to be with so many friends. And I'm going to take these shades off and put my other glasses on. Excuse me. I get used to wearing them. Gatewood, I thank you for going through all that history and all of the numbers and all, because I didn't try to do that. I wanted to talk to you briefly about another aspect of Bill Capitan's tenure as president, and that was expanding the student population to particularly bringing students here from Asia. Andrew and I had the great good fortune to go to Taiwan in '83, I believe it was, Bill, with Dolores and Bill, and we had sister university relations with 3 colleges and universities over there during that trip, I think. I'm not going to tell you everything that Bill told me riding on the bus between the various communities, because y'all would think that was inappropriate probably. But at any rate, after the trip to Taiwan, it seemed like the Capitans were gone frequently to Korea and Japan and various other places establishing sister university relationships. And at one time, we had a great many Asian students out here and still have a good many. I think at one time there were over 200, Bill, if I remember correctly. So I think this was an important aspect of expanding this university to recognize the international aspect that most of us have to deal with. So I want to thank him for all the good times that we had in the President's House, that's now the Rosalynn Carter Institute. Mike Choker's daddy would remember a lot of those good times too. And thank him for the work that he did promoting this school and integrating it into the community better, the old town and gown thing. We used to talk about that a lot, Bill. We made a real effort trying to close that gap that we've had at some points. And I hope David and June would agree with me. I see them sitting right out there in front of me, that we did pretty well on that. And Lynn Frisbee, who I saw the other day, and Bill Kipp and all. So thank you all for being here and recognizing Bill and remembering Dolores in this nice way. It's very important, I think, that we recognize people that do things in our community, and Bill, you certainly have, and I thank you for that. Thank you.
I applaud Dr. Blanchard and the administration at Georgia Southwestern for the very appropriate decision to name this plaza in honor of Dr. Capitan. A lot of wisdom went into that, and we appreciate very much their organizing this event so that we could all come together and celebrate this. I particularly thank you for my invitation to be a participant in this. I was here a number of years during the time that Dr. Capitan was, and certainly enjoyed that time here. I actually had the privilege of working here for 27 years, about 15 of which were after Dr. Capitan came. And I wanted to take this opportunity to personally thank him for allowing me to stay here, even though I'm not sure I would have tolerated me nearly as well or as patiently as he did. I want to share a few thoughts about what was accomplished here while Dr. Capitan was here, and talk a little bit about what his leadership and his influence meant to the development of this institution. I won't begin to try to list all of the accomplishments. You've heard a number of them today, and if I recall, that's only a partial list. I feel like the most significant thing he did for us as a college, as a faculty and staff, was to enable us to believe that we could be better than we thought we were. Now, we were always a good college, but under Dr. Capitan's leadership and with his influence, I think all of us believed we could be a much better college, perhaps even achieve some greatness. I think that perhaps was the most significant impact, in that he showed us how to change our thinking. I recall an early administrative meeting when he was discussing with the administrative team what we were doing, what we could do. Some of us were quite boastful about the fact that we had always been quite consistently good at what we did. Dr. Capitan was quiet for a moment and then remarked, "You know, consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds." Well, I didn't know exactly what that meant, but I was pretty sure it was not intended as a direct compliment of any kind. Now, I learned later that he was actually quoting from some lines that were written by Ralph Waldo Emerson, in which he said, "A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds," and went on to say, "With consistency, a great soul has nothing to do." Now, I never did quite figure out exactly how hobgoblin was a term used in that, but I did understand Dr. Capitan's message. Consistency alone and being just good would not make us great. He wanted us to think beyond the boundaries and the limitations within which we had all been working. I guess a current term is to think outside the box. I don't know that he ever used that term, but he did want us to look at our boundaries, our limitations, and believe that we could go beyond those. Some of us weren't as comfortable with that as others, or as he was for that matter. Many were like I am, growing up in the polite conservative South, attending conservative churches, attending land grant colleges and universities, serving in the U.S. military. We just weren't comfortable with getting outside the box. We had been taught to understand the expectations and the limitations that we had and to do the best we could within that framework. Well, Dr. Capitan led us through a process and enabled us to follow that process whereby we could think and believe we could become much better, perhaps great. He didn't just talk about it, he led us through a planning process that enabled us to see where we needed to go and to plan steps that would take us that way. Every college and university had a mission statement, was required by accrediting agencies, but we didn't know exactly how that related to our everyday work. Dr. Capitan led us through this process where we developed goals to accomplish that mission, objectives to reach those goals, and steps to take to meet those objectives, goals, and ultimately the mission. As is already mentioned, the idea of what became the Rosalynn Carter Institute was an idea that he conceived. We didn't know exactly what that was going to be, and I'm not sure any of us, including perhaps Dr. Capitan, envisioned that it would become the nationally recognized, perhaps premier organization in this country for the things that they address. This is just one very concrete example of greatness that this college was able to achieve under his influence and with his leadership. I applaud the administration here for putting the units together that are together in this complex. Prior to the Rosalynn Carter Institute idea, we had very strong academic programs in psychology, sociology, and nursing, all of which dealt with caregiving also. So the idea of bringing all of those things together in this one complex was really quite a stroke of wisdom, perhaps genius. And again, I applaud Dr. Blanchard and the current administration for those decisions. In order to develop some of these plans and documents that we used in our planning process, Dr. Capitan would periodically get administrative teams together in administrative retreats. He wanted us to get away from the telephones, the regular routine office responsibilities, clear our minds, and just think about what we could do. I participated in several of those. Perhaps the last one, I don't know if it was the last one, but close to the end of his tenure at Southwestern, he decided to get what he called his top administrative staff together in one of these retreats. Well, he always gave us assignments ahead of time. And the assignment this time was to write out and be prepared to present to each other how we wanted to be remembered when we left or when we were gone from this place. Well, the idea of retreat, perhaps surrender, came to mind, and we wondered if by writing this we weren't writing something like an obituary. Maybe we weren't expected to survive that last retreat. I don't think he used the term obituary, and I probably shouldn't admit to him that those of us doing this preparation did, but we wrote those. I can't recall everything that was. It was an interesting meeting, as you can imagine, and if I call the names of the others who participated, some of you folks who are more mature than others here would probably have their own idea of some of the things that were said. I don't recall all the specifics. Actually, at my age, I'm not sure I recall exactly how I got here this morning. But at any rate, I tried to remember what Dr. Capitan had said about his own life and how he wanted to be remembered. Don't know the specifics. I'm probably paraphrasing. But I'm sure that what he said meant that when he left Georgia Southwestern, he wanted to leave it a better place than it was when he arrived. Under his leadership and his influence, I think we would all agree that he did, in fact, do that. As you can see from what's going on now, that idea just continued. This college, this campus, the administration, the faculty, and staff all continue to strive for greatness. And I'm not sure we would have reached that point without someone, in our case Dr. Capitan, leading us in that direction. Dr. Capitan, thank you. You clearly left this place a better place than when you came. And as a result, left all of us as better people than when you came.
I'm going to start with the serious stuff first, and then I'll get to the reason Dr. Blanchard invited me. I really do appreciate being invited, as always. I love Emeritus. I love coming back over here. I live in Columbus now. And I knew Dr. Capitan on several levels. One, as a great family friend. He and my daddy were very close. He was a confidant of my daddy. And of course, I knew Rita and Ned, your offspring, who've distinguished themselves, and they have been great friends. As college president, you successfully followed Dr. Bill King, who was beloved in this community. I tell people, you just never want to follow somebody like that. It's like being the next coach at Alabama after Bear Bryant left. But not only were you successful, you thrived, and I think the thing that I really appreciate most is you kept the momentum at this now university going. And I really worry about where Emeritus would be without Georgia Southwestern. And so the contributions you made in that area just to me are the most important, because it's all about the community. Now to the other part. Looking at the program or listening to Dr. Blanchard and being introduced as a student, I see some of the old professors here that were here when I was here, and so we all know that description is made in the loosest sense possible. And I do wish my dad was here today to see me described in the program as a distinguished alumnus. I walked up and I saw Rick Whaley, and I'm like, now there's your distinguished alumnus. I was a guy who finally rode through the Student Center circle enough times they threw a diploma in the window on the way by. But like I said, I've known Dr. Capitan on several levels, and one of them, not many people know this story, but I know Dr. Capitan as being a famous jurist, and it was the case of Powers versus Myers. There used to be a very, very nice lady who made a really misguided decision on a decision that was going to affect my academic and political career when I thought I had a political career back in the day. It was alleged that there had been a streaking incident, maybe 200 or 300 yards from here, involving me and 8 of my friends on a Sunday night of all things. We went through this. Sorry, Miss Powers is no longer here with us, because I was really going to have a lot of fun with her too. But we went through the process, and Ann Powers. And there was a couple of problems with streaking. A, we got caught, and B, I was the SGA president at the time. Now, probably it might be at this point more of you don't know this story than do know this story, but the ones who know it, I've heard about it for about 20 years after it happened. Every time I came to Emeritus. But anyway. We went through the due process at the time with Miss Powers, and she decided in her capacity, and I can't remember her exact title, but she was some kind of dean. She had the authority to throw me out of the SGA. That's what she had. And this was about 2 months before my term was over. And the great jurist, Dr. William Capitan, stepped in and used his presidential power, gave me a pardon, and I was able to finish my term with some level of dignity. I'm here because I told this story to Dr. Blanchard over in Columbus at a basketball game a few months ago. But I really am honored to be here and be a part of this. And the Capitan family, you've just done so much for this community, and I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. William Capitan. Thank you.
Please be seated. Please be seated. I'm overwhelmed. I really am. I was going to say distinguished guests, and I should say distinguished guests, but you're all friends, and it's hard to do. But Dr. Blanchard, members of the former administration, our distinguished representative, Mike Chokas, and Your Honor, Barry Blunt, thank you all for being here. This is I gotta get myself together in a minute, and a little bit moved by it. Dr. Blanchard, thank you for all you have done to have this morning for us, and to further the mission of Georgia Southwestern College in such a dramatic way. Thank you for all the progress that I see. Rita and Ned and I drove up last night and rode around the campus, and we were just so thrilled by everything that's happened here. So thank you and congratulations to you. Dr. Dudley, thanks very much for for that research work. That was good. I think we thank Mildred Teachin for her hyperbole in writing about what I did in the history of the college, maybe a source of some of your data. Anyway, thank you very much for recounting all this, some of which I had forgotten myself. Overall, thank you to Southwestern, Emeritus, and Sumter County for greeting my family and me over 34 years ago and never letting us go. Thank you for the honor of letting me serve as president of Georgia Southwestern College. My two distinguished vice presidents, Benny Daniel, Business for Finance, and Jerry Williams, who are here. Probably one of the high points of my life was to be able to work with those two men of complete, absolute integrity. I knew that I could count on them to give me their very best, even if it wasn't what I wanted to hear, but I knew it was, if I could count on it because it was the truth, but I knew that they knew what they were talking about. So I thank you two gentlemen very much. This is a very special place. This is where country kids can come to school. First generation people come to school. A lot of people I remember during orientation when their parents would come, they'd kind of say, well, oh, here's the president. And they were a little embarrassed about their parents and so on. They didn't realize what my humble origins were and that I understood their feelings. I think that's one of the wonderful things about this place is that people like that can come and leave as professionals. And now, under your leadership, Dr. Blanchard, they are up there with the very best of them and can compete with the very best of them. This is the heart of this institution, what I've always believed in was its singular value. Now, you mentioned Dr. King, and if he were here, he would tell us about the first panty raid. That's always was a lot of fun. And I see that you knew I was going to tell a story about the streaking incident because that was what I had to deal with. I deal with streakers. He did the panty raids, and I had to deal with the streakers. And I just tell you from my point of view how I saw that. Ann Power was in, and you may know she was Dean of Women, I think, and was a very proper lady. And she came to try to tell me about what had happened out there in front of Beth King Duncan Hall, women's residences. And she said, Dr. Capitan, we had a streaking incident last night, and she said, I don't know what I should do about this. I said, well, this is something we should take up with the student government. She said, but the leader of the student government was in it. So it did take the wisdom of Solomon to get myself out of that. It did work. Well, I'm flooded with many memories, more distinguished than these. Great memories. But I conclude my remarks by saying that we are home. My late wife Dolores and I grew up in different towns. But what's interesting about it is they were both remarkably like Emeritus. So when we came here, we found this to be our home. I think Rita and Ned would say the same thing, that this is their home. It's great to be here. And this garden idea is excellent. I thank you for this and remembering us in this way. Emeritus is a place where the same values that we came from, where we believed in family and church and work. So I hope that when you pass by this garden in years to come, you'll think of it as a stamp on the love letter that from the Capitans to this college and this university and this community, that's written on the hearts of Dolores and me forever. Thank you very much.
Hold on just a minute, guys. Well, folks, it's time now to make it official. So with the power vested in me by the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia, I hereby dedicate the Capitan Garden. Or if you wish, Capitan Plaza. Again, thank you very much for all you've done, and thanks to all of you for being here. Congratulations. Again, thanks, Rita and Ned, for being here. It's a great day for all of us. Thank you for your very kind comments, and to the special speakers, even you, Frank. I appreciate it. But again, long may this live. Thanks.